Thank you so much for joining us for the interview and for your participation at the event over the past couple of days. And just to garner a bit of your perspective on the industry, especially your expertise in frontier and developing markets, how different is investing in private equity in these frontier markets compared to developed markets?
The first thing that I would say is that private equity in these markets is actually a relatively recent industry. And so the first challenge is actually identifying the players that are able to add value and actually that can prove that they have added value in the past. When you invest in developed markets, there is a track record, there is a long history. You can actually do a quantitative analysis of what they have achieved in the past. When you invest in frontier and emerging markets, you actually have to trust the management team and you have to develop a process by which you actually understand the team and their ability to generate and add value to their companies. The type of deals that these managers do is also very different from the type of deals that are done usually in developed markets.
Absolutely, and proving those track records can be very tricky, as we've heard over the past couple of days. And which sectors in particular are seeing more favour with international investments? Are there any that are demonstrating, a transparent and more obvious, perhaps, attraction to international investors?
Well, it's interesting because, in fact, the biggest challenge is attracting international investors' attention to these markets in the first place, especially now. Historically, I would say that the two main areas that have attracted investors' interest has been the large infrastructure deals and funds that do those deals, on the one hand, and on the other hand, it's the growth story, it's the emerging middle class, it's the emerging and growing demand, is the SME's growth story that has attracted the attention of a selected few investors, shall we say, the ones that have more familiarity with the area and who have an understanding of the risks of this opportunity that is closer to reality than the ones that is held by most international investors.
Absolutely. And to those who aren't familiar with these frontier and developing markets and who perhaps have seen, the front page news of slowing down growth or risks, what would you say to them to bring them on board?
Well, it's not what I would say to them, it's what I do say to them, but you're right. I think in the last few months, The Economist has had at least 3 front pages about the slowdown in India, and the Financial Times is full of horror stories about the slowdown in China, in India, in Brazil, not to mention the problems that the North African region has had with the Arab Spring. So what would we say? What do we say? We tell them about the fact that private equity is a long-term game, and it's all about being able to enter a market at the time when valuations are actually realistic. One of the big concerns is the depreciation of the currency, and that is something that is happening now. The comment we make is one should never really try to time the market in private equity because it's a long-term game, but in truth, if you have dry powder now and you have money to invest now is a very good time to invest in these markets.
Absolutely. Get there first or miss out. Definitely. Thank you, Vivina.
You're welcome.